Hey, family. What's up? Welcome to the African Ancestry Experience. This is where we discuss what it means to transform the way that we as Black people view ourselves and the way we view Africa. We're going across the pond tonight to the UK. This is a very special edition of the African Ancestry Experience. Our family member, Paul Obinna, is going to join us and discuss his experience growing up Black in the UK and what inspired him to create the Lineage Timeline. You don't want to miss this, so stay tuned because I want to know ya.
I wanna know ya, Cameroon, Guinea-Bissau, Sierra Leone, gotta let me show ya, Nigeria, Bioko Island, Liberia.
You all know how we do here at the African Ancestry Experience. We're all about sharing identity-focused conversations with the African diaspora. And I'm so excited that we have some people from the UK joining us this month because it's Black History Month in the UK. Here at African Ancestry, we trace your DNA wherever you are in the diaspora. We help you find your roots in Africa, and then you get to explore who you are. And we're right here with you as you do that. Now, the African Ancestry Online family, put your flag up in the chat, y'all. If you're here, I want to see you give yourselves a hand clap. We are 10,000 deep almost. 10,000 deep. I can't believe it. Menelik, you were here bright and early at night. I'm so glad to see you. Ando, Tracy, two Tracys, Lisa Hayes, as usual. I see you, Monique and Cheryl, Michael Friend. All the regulars are here. I love it when you all, and welcome to all the new people. You're in for a treat tonight. Our folks in the chat are rowdy, and our guest is full of information. So many of you have already taken the African Ancestry test, either the Matriclan or the Patriclan, and found your roots in a present-day African country and ethnic group. So then what? Now what do you do? People ask me that all the time. Like, then what am I supposed to do? Well, people do all sorts of things with once they know their roots. The list is long, but to get you started, we have come up with 5 next steps once you know. And so the first step that we say is to encourage your children or your grandchildren or your nephews and nieces to use their African ancestry results in their school projects. Once you know where you're from, then your school age kids always have a topic. It could be the music from the group that you share ancestry with. It can be the food of the country you share ancestry with. How many of you all have kids? I want you to put in the chat, I don't know, what's an emoji for? Put a little kid emoji in the chat. I want to know if you guys have kids and you've always scrambled for things for them to do their projects on that are culturally relevant. If you've been with us for a long time, you remember me talking about Julian, the step stool chef down in Dallas, Texas. And every year, I think he was in the 4th grade at the time. Every year, his school had a global day. The school goes global. And all the kids were encouraged to put a pin in the map in the country where they're from. And Julian was like, well, where am I supposed to put my pin? In the 4th grade, 9 years old, he was asking his mother that question. Needless to say, now Julian knows that he shares ancestry with the Tikar people living in Cameroon today and some other folks in the country. And so he can put his pin proudly in the country of Cameroon and feel good. Shout out to I don't want to mispronounce your name, Tutiet, who's here with us from the UK. You're welcome. Thank you for being here. Ayitunde, all of you guys. I love it. I love it. So yeah, so that's just one thing that you can do when you know where you're from. You can help increase the amount of culturally relevant educational activities that your children can use at school and outside of school. So visit our social media to learn the other 4 steps because we have 5 steps up there for you. As you know, every Wednesday, we give away African Ancestry swag to the first person to join us at 7 p.m. And Chris rocks you. Are you a DJ? Chris Rocks You? That sounds like a DJ name to me. Congratulations. You have won the Remember Who You Are study guide, my favorite thing that we have besides the test kit, besides pendants, besides t-shirts. All the things we have are dope. You'll love it. And I don't know, we have to see what our next guest is gonna say about our Remember Who You Are study guide. It's like nowhere near as deep as his well of knowledge, but we're scratching the surface. So Chris, please be sure to email us your mailing address so that we can get you that guide. Send it to info@africanancestry.com. Now, shout out to our producer, Wendy. She is on this YouTube thing, man. She is just making huge strides with African Ancestry on YouTube. And we have new content every day. Every single day, we are adding new content to our YouTube channel. So I would love it if you all would like, share, subscribe. Most importantly, turn on the notifications so that you don't miss the new content, because we are working hard to bring you all kinds of African ancestry related information. And then, of course, I got to shout out the African Ancestry family reunions. Ghana is done. Sierra Leone is sold out. There are very few, like very, very, very few spaces left on the Cameroon AAFR, which is March 12th through the 25th in 2003. So it's not too late for you to get on that trip. Remember, we offer Affirm as a payment method. And so you're able to break the payments up into 3, 6, or 12-month increments. So go on over to africanancestry.com/travel and check out the AAFR. Secure your spot today. Whew. Okay, I was trying to do all that really fast so we have more time to talk to our guest tonight. We like to celebrate our family members, and the African Ancestry family has over 1 million people in it now. So there's no shortage of experts that we can bring on to share information with you. And tonight is no different. I would like for you to put a fist emoji in the chat to welcome Paul Obinna to the show. Just get ready, because this brother, he is all about it. Hello, Paul. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Listen, I have to say, I appreciate you being here with us tonight. It's after midnight in the UK where you are, and I know you've had a very eventful day. Congratulations to your daughter for her college graduation, but we just appreciate you being here with us.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
And shout out to Tony Browder for making the introduction again to have you here. We have to definitely acknowledge him. So
I always, Tony's like a big brother, and puts me in my place occasionally.
Well, he wouldn't be Tony Browder if he didn't put us all in our places from time when we need it, right?
That's it.
Paul, for the past few weeks, we've invited some of the most brilliant minds here to help us dissect how what we're calling the Africa void continues to impact our family values, our self-love, spirituality, education, all those things that you are very well versed in. And tonight is no exception. Everybody, in case you're just joining us, let me just remind you of actually, you know what? When you hear Africa void, Paul, what comes to mind for you?
There's two things. One's not knowing, the other one's deliberately avoiding Africa. So it's Africa void. You just say the A and void. Yeah, you avoid Africa, and that's because it's like Malcolm used to say, you can't love the fruit and hate the root. But we've been taught to disrespect our origin, and so I love. There's a phrase from Professor James Small. He said, how can you claim that you want to be free when the one thing you'll be when you're free is the one thing you don't want to be, which is an African?
Whoa. Okay, wait. Can you say that again?
How can you
say
claim?
it in slow motion. Say it in slow motion.
Sorry. How can you claim that you want to be free when the one thing you'll be when you're free is the one thing you don't want to be, which is an African? So many people don't like the origin of Africa. And yeah, there are a lot of things. There are a lot of pitfalls and traps and the way it's portrayed. And I've had cause because I've been deeply, deeply immersed in redrafting the timeline. So I've been looking at this book of Mr. Browder's. Is it too bright? Is it too bright? Whatever.
No,
And yeah, and so I've been digging in and putting references along the timeline. And yeah, Tony's got this thing in here where he's talking about the negative portrayals or the whitening of the good things, and then the negative portrayals and stereotypes that get hit. So we're all about Dr. Patricia Newton came over here several times, and God rest her soul.
Yes.
And she used to say, if you try, you get the finger. If you say, if you try, she give you the finger. You say, you don't try, you do. Either you're doing it or you're not.
Right.
So
right.
what we're doing is challenging those negative portrayals with factual data and factual information.
Exactly. So yes, so there you have it. That is a great definition and explanation of the Africa void. So Paul, I can't wait for us to learn all about your experience growing up in the UK. But before we begin, we like to start each show with identity questions. So if you wouldn't mind,
okay.
I would like for you to finish this sentence. I am
an African of mixed parentage.
Okay. Very good. Very good. And so where did you grow up?
I was born in Preston, England, and grew up in a town called Blackburn in Lancashire in the northwest of England. Blackburn, very good name for the town. I was born in 1959, so I grew all the way through the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, where there was no political correctness or anything like that. So they used to call there's an expression to say you call a spade, but they call a spade an N person. And so I was the dark. As you see, I'm light skinned, especially because I'm not in the sun as much these days. Right. I was darker when I was younger, but I was the darkest thing around in the areas I was raised in.
So how did that impact your identity?
I was blessed because my first day in school, which was April 3rd, 1963, day of the Birmingham, Alabama uprisings, etc. I've learned later. My first morning break, I went up a slide in front of a Scottish boy, and he said to me, because I went in front of him, he said, "I'll stab you with my petty knife, you black bastard." And so I knew about the stabbing because it's not long after the Second World War. And so violence and military things were always all around. But I went home and I said to my mom, who I thought was my adopted mom at that stage, because I was raised in a white family, officially adopted. And I said, "What does black bastard mean?" And she said, "Well, get it straight. You're not black, you're golden brown, and you're half English and you're half African. So if anybody ever called me black, anybody called me African, we're cool." So then when I was around 14, 15, and I started moving with people from the Caribbean who said that they weren't African, I was saying, huh? What's wrong with you?
Wow. And so this was at 4. At 4, your mother gave you that sense of who you are.
Oh, yeah. I became like an Afrocentric flypaper. Anything that was African, black, whatever, I look at, I'd remember, and I can plot you a journey through my life with reference points of where I saw African things.
Wow. Do you remember the first African thing you saw?
I'd say possibly, and this is
besides yourself.
This goes into my book of Dumb. The first African thing I saw was Paul Robeson. The first voice I heard was Paul Robeson, and so my mom and dad had Paul Robeson records, gramophone records, and I so I then I saw him in what Sanders of the River, and I was like, you know, I was a little bit kind of I put back with that, the portrayal, but I didn't know anything really about him. But then, to cut a long story short, I disrespected him in college by using his image to show the coconutification process, which because I'm a graphic artist. This is something I share with Mr. Browder.
Yeah.
And I use this thing of a flip top lid, and the inside is a coconut, but I had Paul Robeson's image. So can you imagine this? So this is me, red hot Mr. Afrocentric, angry, all of this kind of stuff. Used his image like that. Then not only did it's a thing that I regret because then I got bombarded with things he'd achieved. Then just this March, April, oh, this is so dumb. This is so dumb. Just this March, April, I was looking at my certificate of ancestry, which a certain organization over there sent me. And who was one of the people who claimed Igbo ancestry was Paul Robeson. But then this is the thing. I was looking at me. You see, this here on my father, the patrilineal, in Igbo, we call it the Omunna. Omunna is your lineage of your father.
Okay.
Omunna is your mother's lineage. So I'm looking at this thing and deciding, yeah, I'm going to do this in my thing. Then it said that Paul Robeson gained prominence in the UK in April 1959. And guess what? That's when I was born. And guess what? That's who I was named for.
Oh, you got to put that in your identity description that you were named after Paul Robeson.
I've got to put it in my book of dumb. That's what I've got to put it. But it's great moments like walking up the causeway behind the Great Sphinx in Egypt back in 1990 and looking for the River Nile. And, you know, I was looking for the River Nile. My friend saying, what are you looking at? I said, the River Nile. The River Nile's not by here. Of course the River Nile's by here. The River Nile's in River Nile, Sphinx, pyramids. But go there. Of course, what are you trying to say? I'm stupid. What are you doing with? And this is 7 kilometers back in Cairo. And I'm like, nah. And then when I got back to the UK, I looked and it was a grafted photograph in a history book to give an impression of Egypt. They say a good picture's worth 1,000 words.
Wow.
Another entry from my book of dumb. Paul
That's
Robeson.
okay though. You more than redeemed yourself.
Paul Robeson.
From the book of dumb. Now you can just claim it. Now you can claim it. But listen,
the initial with PR. It's PR, public relations. PR. Paul Robeson. That's stupid. Sorry. Okay.
Okay. New topic. So,
right.
You know, the UK, we have a fraught relationship with Britain in particular as Americans, and, you know, the things we learn about how they negatively impacted North America upon their arrival, and of course the role that they played in the slave trade. But with the passing of Queen Elizabeth, it's like Black Twitter just lost its mind, and we were just inundated all throughout the day, every day, with information about Britain's role in the rest of the world during her reign as queen, which of course was forever. And so I'm wondering, is Black History Month in the UK right now? Is it a big deal? Like, is it like it is here where, you know, companies are focused on it, schools are focused on it, the one time of the year we get to be, you know, celebrate being Black? Is it like that there? How is it?
It rises and falls.
Okay.
And I say that since its inception over here.
And when was it? Was it 1987? When did
1987,
okay.
The GLC. It was a parting shot by Ken Livingstone, who was the head of the GLC. And he funded Akiaba Adesebo. I know you've got a slide of him later. And he was working with Ansel Wong and others. There's about I spoke with Brother Akiaba about 4 weeks ago for the first time. I'd not met him before. I sent him a message saying respects, because when I start a Black History Month presentation, I always have Carter Woodson. Then I put the Frederick Douglass, Abraham Lincoln. So I give that, and then the rise through in the USA. And then I always say, yeah, these people set it up in the UK. But then he just blam with the information and about who was involved. So I sat one day and he was texting me through more people's names that I had to add on to the PowerPoint. And so we had this dialogue, and so we were building the building this PowerPoint, and it's like full now. It's had people have jumped on the bandwagon. There's now Pride History Month for the gay community. There are some people are trying to do the Asian History Month, and in the Asian means Indian, Pakistani, Bengali over here, not Chinese and whatever. The Chinese over here basically get on with their own stuff, you know. So yeah, it rises and falls. And what I'm wanting to do with the timeline this time is to get a version that's going to be specifically for the different age bands in school.
Okay.
So my daughter, for instance, is a nursery early years specialist. So she's going to be on that. My son, who's 13, 14, he's going to work on one for the junior, what we call junior school and junior high. And then there's a sister, what she called Atlantis or something she called.
Not Atlantis Browder.
Is it that the name? I think that's it. I'm proposing that she does one for the high school level. And
let's take a step back, because everybody doesn't know about the timeline. So what is the inspiration for creating the 8,000 years of African and world history in a 10-foot scroll? What in the world were you thinking?
Simply put, I started doing this thing with being of dual heritage. So my father's Igbo, West African, and then my mother's English. And of course, for me to find out about my European history, I just go to school, switch on the TV, or put in a newspaper or whatever. But to get hold of any information about respectful information of Africa, oh my gosh, I had to go digging deep. So
what kind of places did you go? Where did you dig?
Oh, it had to be bookshops. It was all books back then, and certain films. You get certain films. One of my bugbears, of course, is the Ten Commandments. Cecil B. DeMille. I can rant on about that film, maybe later. But what happened is I was digging for information. I came from a staunch Christian background because my dad, who raised me, my mother's husband, he was a Plymouth Brethren Reverend. She was secretary of a missionary society. And I was a cathedral choir boy for 5 years, from 8 years old to 13. So I had this kind of, I had a kind of sense of discipline, but I always loved history, always liked it, and wanted to find things out. And so I used to do comparisons, and then I learned, well, if so-called Egyptian histories, dynastic histories at 3,200, and the oldest Greek civilization 832 BC, I'm like saying, well, wait a minute, it's 1,600 years before. And so I was doing these comparisons, did some very naughty ones as well, but for Frances Cress Welsing, she'd understand it. But what I then did, I remember I saw Free Your Mind by Asa Hilliard and Listervelt Middleton. And Brother Asa, I loved that brother, his work and everything. It had a profound effect on me. In fact, I did 5 years of conferences, so that education of the Black child from 1993 to 1997, just so I could bring over Asa Hilliard.
And you're a teacher by training, correct? I mean, I know you're a graphic artist, but as a career, you taught.
I was a teacher. I'm from a family of teachers, married to teachers.
Okay.
So I became an engineer. And I was going to be a professional boxer as well. but I got dragged back into the teaching field. So yeah,
You got you got these resources from books, you got the information from books and people,
talking to
and
people,
films. How did you decide what to put in it?
I had to decide what to leave out of it.
Hmm.
And one thing, it was I was coming back from Ghana for the first time in 1990, and I was on the plane from Ghana to Egypt, to Cairo, and I was sat next to a reggae artist called Dr. Alimantado, and he was steeped in Rasta concepts, and so it was like, the Pharaoh, him was wicked, he persecute Moses. So I'm going, which Pharaoh? I said, all the pharaohs are named. Which Pharaoh was it? And they say, oh, it was Ramesses and Setai I and Ramesses. I said, but they were 300 years after Moses, if you take it literally from Jewish scholarship. I said, so how can it be them? And he was scratching his head, going, well, I'm not too sure. And I said, this is it. People are not too sure. So I had to do something to be sure. So, you know, you got the word measure, the measure, and it says me, then sure. So the word measure contains the word sure. So I was saying, yeah. So they say Hilliard, when I saw Free Your Mind, 89, 90, did a vertical timeline. And I don't think vertically. I'm not Chinese or Arabic. So I wanted to go on the horizon on this level. And because I was a graphic artist, I produced one using, it was cutting and paper with insulation tape for duration bands and sticking pictures on it.
So how long was the first one?
Oh, wow. I think I got it to about maybe 20 feet long or something like that. And I used to fold it in sections. It was folded in sections. But then there's a guy I got to mention, a guy called Johnny Pearson, a Rasta brother from the Midlands. In fact, I was just talking to his friend this evening, and Johnny's now late, but everywhere I went, if I went on a conference or whatever, Johnny's at, Brother Paul, is a timeline done yet? Brother Paul, is a timeline done? And then I was actually with the National Black MBA. I went to a conference in Houston, Texas, 2002, I think it was. And I had a prototype. I've been able to do it myself on a computer. I had this prototype, not a word of a lie, Gina. I walked out Gatwick Airport in London, not seen Johnny Pearson for 2 years. And who's standing there, waiting there? Johnny Pearson. And I went, what are you doing here? And he's like, I'm picking someone up. And I said, is the timeline done? I said, yeah, I've got one. I've done this prototype. Can I have this? I said, no, it's my prototype. So I got one to him eventually. I said, well, it's been wonderful, you know.
So you went from 20 feet, and how many years? That was 2002. So that was 20 years ago?
Yeah.
And now it's 10 feet.
Well,
Tell us how it's broke. How would you describe it? How is it broken up?
It's BC and AD. It's the dating system. It's the dating system.
You're like, wait a minute, hold on. You're like, it's BC and AC, dummy.
No, what I'm trying to say is, I go to different institutions, and you get white professors and scholars, and they say, oh, well, we don't agree with this. And I said, but this is your dating system. These are from your books. This is the short chronology. These are your data. And they say, it's like, and you see them because they're not used to seeing it laid out like that, all in one continuum.
I remember seeing it, and because Tony Browder had it at a conference we were at together, and the period, what I remember so clearly from that was the period that we focus on in the Americas, on our experience, is this big on the entire continuum of African and world history. So I'm wondering, okay, it's broken up AC
No,
AD and BC.
and BC,
But
yeah.
is it half and half, or
Half and half.
I mean, give us some
Well,
describe it to us.
think
How
think of this. Time is, if it goes from left to right, yeah, there's a flow of time. But what happened was the Roman Catholic Church in the date, the equivalent date, 525 AD 525, stopped time at what they call 1 AD 1. They stopped time. And then they said that time is counting down to 1 BC and then starts counting up from AD 1.
Okay.
If you're confused at all, it's all right because it's nonsense. It's all right to be confused because it's total nonsense, but that's what they did. And they wanted to, because they were in a fight, the Western Roman Empire, the Roman Empire had split to the Western and the Eastern Roman Empires, the Byzantine Empire. And so the Western Roman Empire wanted to get what's called the Paschal tables, which is where they tell you when all the holy days are. So they wanted to have this. So a guy called Dionysius Exiguus, or Dennis the Little, he was appointed by Pope John I. He's a mathematician, brilliant guy. And they got this period from the foundation of Rome in 753 BC, and then said that this period comes down, and then the Roman Catholic Church, they said it's AD, and then they just started counting 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's like, it's from our time now.
So can you give us 3 key points on the timeline that people in AD,
right,
that Black folks should know that we probably don't?
You got to have 1492, because 1492 is where Columbus sails the ocean blue. And what happens is, from that time, we have what's called the transatlantic enslavement takes place. So on the timeline, that's usually the period of history that Black History Month looks at. If it's not done well, it's a small piece of history. And so that 1492, you must know about that, because just to show how small it is. So for instance, there's a track called Black Man by Stevie Wonder, 1976, Songs in the Key of Life, Joe Bet Music, Black Man, lyrics by where's he gone to? Gary Bird, Imhotep Gary Bird, right? Brilliant song. But then when you see the scope of the black, the brown, the red, the yellow people it's talking about, it's all in that very small piece of history.
Right.
Right. So that's the first thing you must remember. The next thing in AD is that a lot of people will go back to the role of Islam, or take Muslim names, etc. But AD 641 is where the Arabs go into Africa as aggressors and start the trans-Saharan slave trade, right? And
641.
641. So for 1,000 years, just under 1,000 years before Europeans got in on the act, the Arabs were already doing that trans-Saharan. Yeah. Another fact is that, this is one I find it really funny. Sorry, but I'll twist it. Another fact is the fact that Britain, and this is one for Tony Browder, because he keeps going about the Brits and all of this thing. Britain was in actual fact being enslaved. British people were being enslaved by Moors and Turks from the Barbary Coast. So the Barbary Coast is North Africa, and they were called the Corsairs, and they were slaving from 1350 until round about 1750. They were slaving as high as Iceland, coming down into Scotland, into Ireland, into Wales, into England, into France, Spain, and Portugal. And they were slaving white people and taking them into the North African slave trade.
Wow.
Now,
And that
so,
I did not know. That's
so
why
the,
people want to be Moors, huh? Because when we give men their paternal results and they go back to Africa, they always, or if it says Spain, I'm sorry, they don't go back to Africa. If it says Spain, they're like, yeah, well, that's because I come
the
from
Moors are all in there. Yeah, they get thalassemia, not sickle cell. It's thalassemia, they call it there now. But
Wow.
the reason I find it really interesting is that have you ever heard of a story of Robinson Crusoe? You've heard that story?
Yes. We
Quickly
had
tell
to
me
read
what you know
that.
about it.
We had to read that in school.
And what did it tell you?
I don't remember that book, Paul. I don't know.
He got shipwrecked, yes?
Yes.
And he was on an island, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so
It's
watch this
coming
now.
back to me.
If he does. So there's an old black and white version. Brilliant. Does the whole book. Black and white versions, German and French. It's dubbed into English. But it covers the whole book. Not just the part schools usually read. Let me do it quickly. What happened is a Dutch family living in Hull in England. His father wants him to be a lawyer. He wants to go to sea and earn his fortune. His first journey, he gets shipwrecked going down to London, right? So it's not a success. But then he does a successful trip down to Guinea, where they get for slaves and trade and whatever. But on his third voyage, he's captured by Turkish corsairs, these people I'm telling you about, and he's sold into slavery in Salé in Morocco. And he's a white slave in Salé for 3.5 years.
That's not in the book.
It's in the book.
That's in the book?
It's in the book. It's in this TV series as well, this old one. And then what happens is he escapes with a boat and a little black boy, and he's picked up by a Portuguese slaver. They go down to Brazil. The captain buys the boat and the boy from him. He sets himself up as a plantation owner. He becomes successful. And then 3 guys, plantation owners, come. They want to do a slave run to Guinea to get slaves. That's when he gets shipwrecked.
Guys,
So
put a boat emoji in the chat if you knew this story, because I feel like I had to read this.
They edit the
junior high
story.
school or something,
What
but I
is-
don't remember this. Do you? Hold on. Oh, wait. I need to know if I was the only one who didn't know this. I want to see in the chat if you guys knew this story.
No, everybody knew it. It's only you, Gina, didn't know it. Just you. That's all.
No, when Payande has my back, you didn't know. Kenan, shout out to Kenan artist. Talk about going way back. Kenan didn't know. Yakota. Okay, all right. I feel better.
But watch this. To teach white supremacy, you can't teach weakness.
That's
so
why
you
I
see,
was like, is it in the book?
it's in the book. It's there in the book. But they edit it. They don't teach that part of the book. It's a bit like parts of the Bible that they don't want to focus on. So for instance, it was so intense. If you go to Devon and Cornwall and look at the old houses down there, the manor houses, they all have battlements because they had to fight off these corsairs, these are pirates.
Shout out to the corsairs.
Yes.
Okay.
Wait, don't. So check this now. You'll like this even better.
I'm not
so
ready.
In 1740, a man called Thomas Arne and a guy called Thompson, a man whose surname's Thompson, wrote a song. They wrote a song in 1740, and it says, "Rule Britannia, Britannia rules the waves. Britons never, never, never shall be slaves." And they wrote it because they were getting their asses, so their people, their brothers, slaved.
Woo! You learn something new every Wednesday here on the African Ancestry Experience. I'm Gina Page. I'm the co-founder of African Ancestry, and I'm here with Paul Obinna, and he is the creator of the Lineage Timeline. That's 10 feet of 8,000 years of African and world history. And he just broke down Robinson Crusoe and taught us all something that me and my peeps in the chat had no idea of. Paul, What we gonna do now? What we gonna talk about now? Okay, so I see Wendy has this is the first timeline that you created in 1985.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so if Wendy just hit the button hard, 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 keep hitting it. So this is, imagine this is 5,000, 4,000. This is BC in red, and then we go to AD in blue.
Okay.
So I drew this timeline up. Just if you understand this, if you hit it again. So if you imagine this, here's this white child, and then hit it again, please. And so his history goes back the beginning of civilization. Again, please. It goes back to 832 BC in Greece. So if you go again, this is what I was doing. If you put the black child, this is a little picture of my son. So this is going back to dynastic Kemet, 3,200. So just go back one. So if you look at the comparison, and this is just to dynastic Kemet. Kemet is a lot older than that.
Right.
So if you hit it again, if you go again with this, when I went to the second timeline I ever drew was because I was, is this going to go forward, Wendy? Okay. Yeah, keep going forward. Do the same structure again. And I was told this I was asked this by a teacher, that Pythagoras' theory was used to build the pyramids. Yeah, so pi theory that we do in school in mathematics.
Mm-hmm.
So just keep hitting that, just keep hitting it. And so what do we get? There's Imhotep, the builder of the step pyramid. There's Pythagoras. And then basically Pythagoras existed. It's again, do the reveal. At mathematical, 2,080 years after the pyramids were built. And that's on the short chronology. That's on the belief that this is the correct order of things. So how can it be Pythagoras' theory?
Okay, you heard it here. How can it be Pythagoras' theory when it came 2,080 years after Imhotep and the pyramids?
Yeah, so you see, when you get certain information. For instance, I just look at everything. I lead a very sedentary, boring life. I've got big dictionaries and whatever. I look at certain things.
We benefit from your lifestyle, so thank you.
But watch this. Do you know the division symbol?
Yes.
So how many times did you use the division symbol in school?
A gazillion.
Now, what's it got to do with Kemet? And you'll say nothing.
So above.
Well, the division symbol, right? The division symbol is called the oblus, and it's the same root word to obelisk. So you know your Washington Monument?
Yeah. So it's upside. So it's.
No, it's a dagger. It means dagger. It means dagger. And so you've got this symbol of, if you look it up, obelisk of division. Because remember, the role of the male is to divide the egg of the woman, isn't it? So the egg splits into 2 to 4 to 8 to 16, 31, 62, 64, 128, 246, etc. So it's called binary cell division. The egg divides but multiplies in size. It subtracts from its original mass and adds size. So we're made up by a mathematical process, right? Binary cell division. So therefore, we have the egg splits into 2. Well, we have 2 parents. Then it splits to 4. We have 4 parents. It splits into 8. We have 8 grandparents, great-grandparents, sorry.
Now you're getting into my lane, because now you're talking about lineages.
Of course. So every time you're doing mathematics, the word maths is based on the word mater, meaning mother. Mathematics is the mother's mother or grandmother. So now we're going into what is natural is our lineage. And my name, Obinna, Obi in Igbo, means heart, wish, home, kindred, chief, lineage, soul, spirit, mind, and shrine house. One word in Igbo. So lineage is part of our natural state of being. Every time you're doing mathematics, it's an acknowledgement of the mother principle or the lineage crown on the head of a set.
Woo!
These
Let me
people
see
are
what time
funny.
it is. I'm about you. You take. I don't know what to do now, and we haven't even scratched the surface. Okay, there was a question some time ago. Yes, Robert, this is definitely powerful history. Paul, there was a question some time ago about whether or not you have published any books that people can buy.
All I've got at the moment is the timeline, the lineage timeline. Mr. Browder's been on at me for years to write, and if I could show you, if I didn't do that, I'd show you. I've got 12 covers on a notice board over there as a reminder to myself that I need to start doing. I need to get things written down. Tony and Atlantis both have been saying to me, I've got to write a book about the lineage timeline. So that's going to be the first thing I'm going to put together. I've already started it to get it live for a website, but with going with Mr. Browder and Atlantis, and that Atlantis, as I call her, cheeky young whippersnapper, going down to eat was just a phenomenal experience. And I was there with Auntie and Uncle. There were two elders I was with, and I just had a phenomenal time, and I thank Tony for that. I got to thank him through the work. I'm not going to thank him. I'm going to thank him through the work and the effects that it's actually had. So just due to a totally different standard, a higher standard of work.
So, but the lineage timeline can be purchased from the IKG website. Wendy has a site. So Wendy, if you could put the site up again. So for all of you who want to, that is his book. Was there the one he sells? Is it 10 feet? He sells boxes. He has two different sizes, I think.
Yeah. I usually the largest one we do is 1 meter high and 25 meters long. So that's like for hall displays, big hall displays. But I'm asking Tony to hang fire on that timeline. It's an older version, because what happened was, it was the idea, I gave that to him to raise money for, because Tony's doing the dig with the Ace of Restoration project. So because it was my I wanted to contribute to that, help Brother Tony and Atlantis get that thing on. But I want to get this new version out, which it's more complete. Not that you can do a complete history, of course, but it's got more facets to it. And I also, for instance, let me just mention this quickly. There's many Black people who are Christianized, and I'm talking me as well, because when I was about 4 years old, I was taken to watch the 10 Commandments with Charlton Heston.
Mm-hmm.
And Yul Brynner's there as Ramesses, Cecil Hardwick as Setai One. The first time you see, and this is what I want to just expose to people. What happens is, the first time you see Moses as an adult, he's come back from conquering Ethiopia. And what happens is, you see he says to Setai One, the king of Ethiopia and his sister. So in the biblical story, he marries that Nubian sister in the story. But the king of Ethiopia, standing there regal with plumes and standing there like buff, sickeningly buff, I've got to say, is Woody Strode, bald hair, the brother with the bald hair.
Uh-huh.
And he's standing there. He doesn't say anything, just stands there looking regal. So I was looking, this is back in the days of video, around 1989. I was looking to see, did they use the right kind of crowns and whatever in the production. So there I've got my 10 Commandments, I got it on. So I want to see if Yul Brynner is going to be wearing the blue war crown. So I'm there, I don't remember that yet. So I'm there like, so I'm looking for the thing. And I stop to the point of that. No. So and I stop. And it was at the point of the Passover where Moses' mother, Egyptian mother, who pulled him from the bulrushes, she's come to his home. Now he's a member of the children of Israel. But the point I stopped. Wait a minute. And I looked. And who was her head slave? Woody Strode. He went from the king of Ethiopia to a slave in 2 hours, 20 minutes. How the hell? I mean, it took at least 300 years in reality. But no, so Cecil B. DeMille, and when you go on to IMBD, the film website, it says Woodrow Strode, king of Ethiopia, and head slave. And then they have the nerve to say Cecil B. DeMille employed him at $200 a week to play the slave, but didn't have anybody to play the king. I said, what, you just got one Negro in Hollywood? What the hell is this? I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit...
Oh, my goodness.
Goodness.
Listen.
So how many black folk have seen that film, thinking it's the actual word of God, it's the closest thing or whatever, and they turn a king into a slave right before your very eyes.
Incredible. All these things hidden in plain sight, things that if we don't know to look and we don't know to pay attention, we will not be enlightened. Paul, will you come back?
Oh, if you call me, I'll come. If you don't call me, I won't come.
Okay. I'm going to call you back because we're running out of time and there's so much more to share. You have the best stories. I was warned that you were full of stories and you did not disappoint. I didn't know you acted them out.
Stories. Who told you? Tony Browder? Because he usually says I'm full of something else.
He didn't tell me that you acted the stories out either. But I do want to give a shout out, a more technical shout out to Black History Month in the UK. And we have this game we play at the end of every show called Fact or Wack. And so we're going to put up a statement. I'd like for you to read the statement, and then we'll have the audience will tell us whether they think that statement is a fact or if they think it's whack. You ready?
Okay. Yes, I'm ready.
Don't give away the answer, Paul.
UK Black History Month was first celebrated in 1987 AD.
Now, if you were paying attention, we did say this fact. Is this fact or whack? UK Black History Month was first celebrated in 1987. We got some facts coming in. You got a lot of people who want you to write a book, Paul. They want you to publish. Okay, facts. Everybody's saying fact. Is this a fact or whack, Paul? Oh, we got a Jackie Page. Hi, Jackie Page. I wonder if we're related.
Jackie Page says fact. It is a fact.
It is a fact. Okay.
It's a fact. Yeah. Akabe Adesebo, another activist who wanted to foster greater pride and consciousness in Black identity in younger Black Britons.
And this is him.
You
mentioned him earlier.
Yes, I've been talking to. He's a wonderful brother and still highly active, still kicking it. He was down in Ghana last week, I think it was.
At the conference. Nice. Yeah. Okay. What's the next one?
Rosa Parks and the Montgomery bus boycott inspired a bus boycott in the UK, in the United Kingdom. Is that a fact or is it whack?
They're coming through. Is this fact or whack, Kendra? What say you, Daniel Lewis? Okay. RY says, please invite him back. Okay, we got wax on this one. Adama. Okay, but Adama and Cheryl are saying fact. Okay, we're split. We got split here. Looks like it's 50-50. What say you, Paul?
It's a fact.
You heard it from Paul.
And the elder, the Bristol bus boycott 63 was in response to the Bristol Omnibus Company, which refused to employ any blacks or Asians, or and it doesn't say here, they wouldn't pick up certain people from certain stops as well. This policy led to a 60-day boycott of the city's buses. Jamaican migrant Norman Samuels became the first black bus driver in Bristol. And the brother who was one of the leading lights of the Bristol bus, he passed away 2 months ago, about 2 months ago. It says Norman Samuels passed away recently as well. Okay.
Wow. Okay, we have one more.
10 Black Britons have been elected as a member of parliament since 1782.
So now this is, okay, can you do the math? This is what? 440 years. Yeah.
No, 2 is 200 and what's that? 1782. So round it up to 1800 is 1800 is 18 years, and so it's 218, 220 something years.
200 and oh yeah.
10 Black Britons.
Okay, I see wax, mostly wax.
Well,
Robert keeps saying fact with a question mark. Robert, you can't be on the fence, Robert. You have to. You have to choose one. I'm teasing.
one way or the other.
And that is with Robert. Okay.
I think Robert's a politician. That's how it goes.
Okay.
Is it fact or what? Well, all I'll say about this: way too low.
Right.
Way too low. Way too low.
Really? So you're saying
Yeah.
Wack?
It's Wack. It is Wack. There's been a lot more than 10.
So our source said that there have only been 6 men and 1 woman.
6 men and 1 woman.
So our source is wrong.
No, yeah. This you have to upgrade that. There are
Okay.
a lot more.
Well, Diane Abbott is one of the women, right?
Yeah. Diane Abbott's Stone. She's with the Labour Party in the UK, and our current Chancellor of the Exchequer is an actual fact of Ashanti descent.
Oh, nice.
No, it's not.
Why not?
Because he's a not. Sorry, I'm letting forward my ideas. So whatever. But you must remember when we balance out. Just because someone's a certain color, don't mean to say they have the consciousness.
Exactly.
And it's what can you say? I remember being at the Ashanti Hini's Durbar in 1993 in Kumasi. Mm-hmm. And I always remember the program. He was there in his traditional with the gold bands and the gold and everything and his kente. Then it showed him in his European business suit. Then it had him in his Rosicrucian, his apron and everything. Yes. Mm-hmm. And I always remember reading in that he was very proud of his family's history in enslavement. So it's the same thing as we're seeing now with Woman King and the role of the Dahomians in enslavement. Mm-hmm. There are certain things, but you must always remember this. When you got to always keep the dates in mind, that when these people got into that element of enslavement, the trade the incursions had already been going 300 years. It's not to excuse it; it's to place it in context. Yes. And then one of the things you told me here, you said I had Sogo, Ataki, Kota, and Fang out of living in Gabon. Well, it's far wider ranging. The Fang were famous for fighting the Hausa and the Arabs, who were making incursions trans-Saharan into the area. In fact, when the two guys, Richard and John Landers, the two Europeans who mapped out the river Niger, when they first arrived in the Niger Delta, they were attacked on sight by the Igbo women with spears and arrows because they thought they were Arabs. Wow. On sight, they attacked them. Wow. So you see those tensions for over 1,000 years that were trans-Saharan. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was from those that benefited the thing. Was it Molefi Asante pointed out that in 1492, you see, if you're asking, I said 1492, you must understand that Columbus sailed the ocean blue. 2 other things happened. January, the Moors were finally kicked out of Spain. So hence the Iberians became very strong under the Castilians. And then Castilians and the House of Aragon as well. And then the other thing that happened was King Sunni Alibert died. So the fall of the empire in the Western state, the Western Sudanic Empire, left the Western seaboard over for incursion. That's in 1492. So you see, those things are happening, and we need to put them in context when we're understanding, because they'll say Africans sold out Africans. and you say, okay, what was the context?
Right.
That's
what's usually missing is the
context.
Yeah.
Oh, someone's written, Avanti Hall's written, we'll put everything in context.
Yep. So listen, you guys can go over to IKG, the IKG Cultural Resource Center.com, I think is the URL to get your copy of the timeline. Hurry up, because there is not an unlimited supply. I know Paul is pushing for a new version of the timeline at IKG. So they're going to be collector's items in a minute. So you guys definitely should go over there. Plus, you'll be supporting IKG. Tony Browder and Atlantis Browder are very dear friends of African Ancestry and our African Ancestry family members. We'll have to have them on soon. Tony has
could I just say something very quickly? Okay, the new version of the timeline, the most important line on it is the line that goes right down the middle of it. I'm trying to see if I can get it in there. If you tune in, there's the yellow line that the numbers, the dates are on top of. That is the golden thread of the mitochondrial DNA of the African woman. And in the new version, there's a DNA helix going all the way along from the front cover to the back cover.
Wow.
The golden thread goes all the way down. And I always say this, if you want to do your culture justice and you want to go to the ancient, I'm a child of Ogun and a child of Eshu Ilegba in Yoruba tradition. And what happens is I have my contemporary Igbo, Yoruba thing, but I deal with the ancient trinity, the ancient concept, right? So I always say, if you want to do respect to your African traditional culture, on your birthday, give thanks and praise to your mother. Buy her a present, because every birthday is Mother's Day. And when you celebrate that, you're awakening the lineage that lies within you. You're giving acknowledgement to that. They've trained us to look forward instead of being like Sankofa, going back and fetching. Fetching what? It has an egg in its mouth. The egg represents the female, the woman, the mother. So on your birthday, give thanks to your mother. If she's passed, pour libation, give her, or as I do, I give the presents I would give to my mom, I give it to a woman of age. I don't care who it is. I go to a shop and give it to the woman who's on the till or whatever. So the presents I will give to my mom, give it to her. So
you all learned a lot tonight. You learned a lot tonight.
Gina, thank you for your work, because without that, there's this formal thing people want to know. And getting that need to know, it's a progression from the work of Tony and James and all the other brothers and sisters, Dr. Ben and Henrik Clark, all those people. It's a natural extension that once you know the knowledge here, what about the physical, your beingness? Where did you come from and where you're going to? Was that?
That was great. Thank you. Wow. Well said. Well said. Listen, everybody, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. Thank you, Paul, for being here. You must come back. You will get a call from us or an email from us to have you back very soon. Speaking of birthdays, Wendy is our producer. She's not going to be here with us next week, and it is her birthday at the end of next week. So I want you to put some birthday emojis in the chat for Wendy. If it was not for Wendy, we would not have these incredible guests with all of this information for you flawlessly every single Wednesday. So I want to see some birthday emojis in the chat for Wendy's birthday. Again, if you're watching us in the replay, let me see some fists. Let me see some birthday emojis. Let me see something to let us know that you were here. And listen, I'm telling you, all you got to do is subscribe. All you got to do is turn on those notifications, and you will not miss this kind of information that comes to us every week. Paul, I thank you. I thank you. I thank you.
My pleasure.
Congratulations again to you and your daughter for her accomplishment.
Yeah.
And thank you again to Tony for bringing all of us together. Everybody, I hope you continue to have a good rest of the week. Until we meet again, may you be happy, may you be healthy, and may you be whole. Have a very good night.
I wanna know ya, Cameroon, Guinea-Bissau, Sierra Leone.